I want to thank everybody today for joining us. This is the last day honoring Black Business Month, and we are so glad to have with us Ces Butner. And I know many of you already know him, but what a champion he is. And I'm so glad that he has elected to be with us today. As I said, there are some things I'm sure you know about him, but perhaps there are some things you don't know about him. I'm honored to be the interviewer, if you will. I'm Anita with Working Solutions. I'm one of the business development officers. And I thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. So allow me to take this opportunity and welcome the one and only Ces Butner. How are you, sir?
Very good. I feel like I know
Wonderful.
everybody that's here, so there's
Wonderful.
no introductions necessary.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Well, listen, for those who may look at the recording later, who may not know all about you, let me just start. I have a litany of questions for you, but for background purposes, tell us just a little bit about you in terms of where you hail from and what brought you here.
I'm I always like to say I'm a simple country boy from Missouri. Grew up in a small town in Missouri. Went to school at University of Missouri. I had 11 brothers and sisters, 12 kids in our family. So you had to scrape and crawl for just about everything that you wanted. But it was a nice life. I went to University of Missouri. After I graduated from University of Missouri, I got a job with Johnson & Johnson, the Baby Products Company. I was moved up to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I worked in Minneapolis and Chicago before I moved out here. And after I got out here, the rest is history.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you for that backdrop. Let me ask you, after you became employed after graduating from the University of Missouri, and you became employed with the Fortune 500 companies, what did you learn that you eventually applied to your personal discipline, your work ethic, as well as your businesses?
Well, it wasn't so much about what I learned there because it was with Johnson & Johnson Baby Product Company, but the reason I got the job was because of what I had done in college. Every summer while I was in college, I sold religious reference books in the South, North and South Carolina mainly, a few other cities around through there, through this book publishing company called Southwest Book Publishing Company. That's where I developed my discipline for what I did. And when I got to Minneapolis and interviewed for jobs, just about everybody offered me a job based on my experience there. And I got nervous that the job market wouldn't be as good when I came back because I was just up there visiting some friends. And I took the job with Johnson & Johnson. So the discipline that you speak of was what I learned while I was young as I was growing up in a family of 12, as I said before, and then working for Southwest Book Publishing Company in the summers while I was going to college.
Wonderful. Let me just backtrack a little bit and ask you, what motivated you, just for clarity, to set out from the Midwest to rebuild your life, as it were, in Oakland? And what was the journey for you like then, if you can kind of think about it? And did you see your purpose then in your movement?
I I was looking for a way to get out to the West Coast. I wanted to get out of the West Coast from the Midwest. I didn't care where it was. And I interviewed for some jobs in Minneapolis and had an interview with a Pepsi Cola bottler in Wisconsin. I remember where it was. And he told me about an issue of, he says, if you work real hard, you know, you get to know these operations, you can run these operations yourself. The owners usually don't have the education that you have and know withal and everything. I said, no, sir. I'd be working for Pepsi Cola. I'd never do anything like that. I'd always work for Pepsi Cola. Obviously, I didn't know at that time, but that was a pretense of things to come in the future. And when I got the job with Olympia Brewing Company that moved me to Chicago, that's really what I was thinking about. As I worked the rollout of Olympia Beer in Chicago, and I got the opportunity to come out to Oakland. And I got to Oakland, and once I got to Oakland, I knew this was where I wanted to be. And I just had to see what would happen then. I came out as a district rep for Olympia Brewing Company. I called on several of the distributors here locally. One of them, of which was Markstein Beverage Company, the company that I eventually ended up buying. I was working for them before everything else happened, and that's how I got my opportunity.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about Horizon Beverage Company, and what did it feel like being one of the youngest Black men to become the owner of an Anheuser-Busch wholesale operation?
Yeah, it was quite intimidating. I knew I had to work hard to get things right. It was set up really, I had a great opportunity through Anheuser-Busch Investment Capital Corporation to purchase Markstein Beverage Company. That was the local distributorship here in Oakland. I was working for them at the time. I was vice president and general manager, ran the place for the guy that owned it. But then I got the opportunity to buy it with a partner. Had a partner, Denny Suzuki was my business partner at the time. And he ran a operation in Southern California, and I ran this one in Northern California. And when I got the opportunity, I said, I better take this while it's coming. And I entered into a relationship with Anheuser-Busch Investment Capital Corporation for basically 8 years, and allowed me to buy them out after the 8 years. 96, I think it was, when I bought them out. I originally started in 87. 96, I bought them out. And then the rest was growing the business and everything from there.
You said something, that there's two things. When I talked to you before this setting, you said, I'm an open book. And you just said something, first of all, I appreciate that, but you just said something that I appreciate again, in that you said it was quite intimidating. And so if you can share with us, you know, people would think that business is really easy and you can become a millionaire overnight. What were the ups and downs you learned as a young man in business that you deem valuable today? And what, you know, of those lessons, what can you share with us, Seth?
Well, it was rough at first. And as you recall, we had the earthquake. I bought in 87. We had an earthquake there in 89. And I lost quite a bit of product and everything and the turmoil and I was just starting. I owed a lot of money in purchasing the operation, and we had to get through that. It was a really rough time. And in fact, business was down quite a bit. I picked up some of the business and going around, but I entered into an opportunity to purchase some non-alcoholic products and started to sell those non-alcoholic products as well during that time period. Arrangement I had to make with Anheuser-Busch Investment Capital Corporation. I really turned the tables on them. Whereas we had 20% and they had 80%, I turned the tables around on them with the non-alcoholic products that I bought, and I had 80% and they had 20% of those operations that I got in there, and put them all in the system. And it got us back up there a little bit, really breaking even, trying to get over the hump. But it allowed me to think in terms of, I knew I was going to be buying them out in 8 years. And that was when I needed the numbers to be lower. Let's just say it that way. So I bought it back from them in 96 at basically about 60 cents on the dollar, because the business had gone down somewhat. But then I started adding other stuff, and that's when it really started to grow.
So tell me, during those times when it was hard, how do you as a businessman,
Well,
if you can speak to us, in those times when it's hard and it looks like things are not going to turn around, how do you stay in it? How do you not walk away from it and
well,
you just
that's
remain, persistent?
if that's what you set your hearts to, and you just got to make it work. I cried a lot. I had a lot of pressure on me to provide for the families that were working for me, because really the business is more than just me. It's about the employees that you end up having. And not only did I want to make money, I had to make sure that the business was making money so that our employees could keep working. And I still was given to the community at that time. At that time, it's important to me to make sure you're a part of the community that you're trying to do business in. And it was very important for me to make sure I maintained that. I was still given about $100,000 a year or so for nonprofits and around that I also had to figure out how I was going to make enough money to do that. So it was tough, but you just got to keep your nose to the grindstone and figure out the things that you have to do it. And most people, if you get a business that you enjoy doing the business, then that's not going to be too hard to do, because you got to make your money doing it.
Well, tell me this, how does one, in this age where everybody's kind of out for themselves, where do you get the integrity and the wherewithal to care about others outside yourself? Most business owners are worried about their own bottom line and not necessarily the employees.
Well, maybe it was something that how I was brought up, but my mom always told me, you got to take care of those who take care of you. And I figured if I was getting my business from Oakland, I need to make sure I took care of Oakland. So I used to always teach my employees, one thing we always do every year was I closed down for one day of the year, first of the year, right around Super Bowl. And I'd have all the employees go work at the food bank. We'd go packing groceries at the food bank for that one day, for half of the day, and then come back to the plant. And then I'd roll out the plans for that year, everything that we wanted to do. So I made a day of it, which basically cost me the pay for everybody for that day. Everybody got paid and everything, but we didn't do any work. We wanted to make sure that we gave to the community and then figured out what our plan was going to be for how we were going forward. So that's the way I kind of approached it. I made sure my employees knew it. I knew I wanted it that way. That's the way I wanted my employees to think about it. So that way they always knew that our business was more than us just getting the business. It was about being a part of the community.
Well, now you said something else. What was the morale like if the employees figured out you cared about them as well? I mean, what did that do for your staff?
I had longtime employees that never left, and they were sad when I left, when I decided to sell the business in 2015. I tried to take care of them as best as I could. I made sure they had a job with the others, but the employees, I think, all enjoyed working for Ces Butner Horizon Beverage Company.
Well, Ces, I want to take a step back a little bit. I think you touched on it. Why don't you tell us all about Speakeasy Ales and Brewery and I'm curious to know how you were able to triple your revenues. You touched on it a little bit, but take your time and walk us through it.
No, I didn't quite triple my revenues on that one. I tripled my revenues with uh, Horizon. That's where I tripled my revenues.
Wonderful. Tell us about it.
I tripled my revenues with Horizon by basically most of it was uh, purchasing additional territory and purchasing additional brands. And I had to be aggressive about that because many of these brands and businesses had been in families for years and years and years, and they didn't want to give it up. But you had to be very aggressive about it. But I knew, and I knew in the process that I was doing, believed in the process that I was doing, I had to make it grow. And basically, when I moved my operation from West Oakland to East Oakland, and I built a new building that I housed it in, that was what I was going after. I was going for growth. I was big as I could get in the West Oakland facility, and I needed to make the numbers be about 6-7 million cases a year that we were doing. I could do as possibly as many as 10 million cases out of that operation, but I had about 7 million cases a year when I eventually sold it. That's why I tripled it from about 2 million when I first bought it to about 6 or 7 million. And that was with Horizon Beverage Company. But one of the brands that I bought was Speakeasy Ales and Lagers. And when I first bought that brand, it was a sleepy little brand, wasn't doing much. We built it up quite a bit here in Oakland, and then the wholesaler that had it over in San Francisco as well. And then when I sold the business, it lost some of their attention with the new owners that had bought it. So the company was in trouble, and I decided to buy it basically to save Speakeasy, which is the oldest now that Anchor Steam's been bought out and everything. Local craft brewing operation in San Francisco. It was started in 1999, legit since 1998. So that's what it says. And I wanted to save that brand for San Francisco, basically. I just thought it was a good brand, and I just wanted to make sure that San Francisco, as these other brands were getting bought out by big conglomerates and everything else like that, I thought we ought to have one local in San Francisco that still remain local. And after all, it's now Black owned too. That's a little added piece on that.
Awesome, awesome. So for all of us on this Zoom today, you start out, let's say small, and you got one product in mind, you got one focus, you got one emphasis. What is what propels a business owner then to start out with one product, and then maybe 5 years later, they got about 4 others? Tell us about that journey.
You gotta wisely expand your mix, what you have. You can never survive because you have all your eggs in one basket if you survive on one product. Whatever your business that you're doing, I suggest diversifying, and diversifying in my instance was really diversifying in products that I had. I had the mechanism to go to all the retail outlets. I just needed to diversify and have the right products to make sure you're having it. Diversification requires, or expanding the numbers of what you have, brands that you have, requires a deep faith in the product, making sure that you're committed to it. I can't tell you how many people came to me to distribute their products, and I told them no. I couldn't do it because I had almost too many, or too many in this category, which I couldn't give him enough attention that I thought he deserved. So it's a mutual respect, a mutual opportunity to make sure that you can give the amount of attention that you need to each one of the brands. I had, when I sold it, was about 30 different suppliers and 150 brands, 200 brands maybe. 30 different suppliers, though those 30 different suppliers, I had to make sure I could manage so that we could give attention to all of those 30 different suppliers. So if I were to tell any business person what you have to do, you can't get bigger than you can manage, whatever it is. Just like I try to tell my wealth managers, they can't have too much of my money. I have to spread it out to somebody else. You got to make sure you have what you can manage and deal with that, and don't try to get bigger than your shoes are.
Yes, when you talk about wealth management, I just want to ask you, when did you determine that it was best for you maybe to have a lawyer, to have an accountant, all of those tools in place to help your business be successful, and you operate above board?
From the beginning. Probably the best decisions I made, a couple of best decisions, was when I first bought my business. The accounting firm that I decided to go with, I still have today. That was one of the best decisions I could have ever made. The lawyer I had when I first started, don't have the same lawyer, been through 2 or 3 since then. Me and lawyers don't necessarily get along in a lot of those situations. But always my finance and my insurance people were the same since I started. I think if you choose wisely at the first, you make the right decision, and it is by far the most important decision that you will make as a business owner.
So aside from choosing wisely, what are the ingredients for building and maintaining those kind of relationships that seem to last lifelong?
We're partners in every sense of the way. They help me with my banking relationships, even though I've been about 3 or 4 different banks I went through over the course of the time. But the banks and everybody else believes in you more if you got a legitimate accountant and a legitimate lawyer, and you aren't just speaking out of the side of your mouth trying to sell somebody on how great you are, what business you can do for them. You become legitimized by doing that. Now, there's no reason we, as working for the Oakland Afro-American Chamber of Commerce, that we can't have all the Black lawyers and Black accountants and Black business people be the ones that support us, but you got to make sure that they can do their job and they are respected as well.
So tell us, as a Black man, you probably ran into this a couple of times. I'm not sure you can tell us, but I'm sure that there would have been those who might have thought, hey, this is a different ball game. You can't come out here with us. You can't play on this field. Maybe you don't even belong on this field. Tell me what you did when you encountered those things, and how did you push through it?
Well, for the most part, I think they try to do it subtly as opposed to overtly. There were times, very few, but there were times that I had to call them out for it. Sometimes you have to do that. I don't like doing that, but sometimes it's necessary. Because if you can see that they have, well, I'll give you an example. I said I'm an open book.
Thank you.
When I first bought out Anheuser-Busch in '96, I got Sam Adams almost right the day after I bought them out. They were livid, let's say. They thought I was ungrateful and blah, 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 and everything else like that. They wanted me to stick and concentrate on their brands and that sort of thing. when the guy called me, getting ready to the big high up guy trying to give me the rigmarole, I ended up saying to him, there's a wholesaler on one side of me that has Sam Adams, and on another side of me that has Sam Adams. And I'm trying to figure, and they both have Anheuser-Busch products. And I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between them and me. And the only thing I can see is that I'm black. Now, you tell me where I'm wrong. And then he says, you calling me a racist? I said, hey, I'm just pointing out to you the facts. The fact is that wholesaler has Sam Adams and Anheuser-Busch. I'm a wholesaler. I have Sam Adams and Anheuser-Busch. The other wholesaler on the other side of me has Sam Adams and Anheuser-Busch. What's the difference between us? That's all I want to know. Because you ain't calling them, telling them that they got to get rid of Sam Adams and they're not loyal to you. So if they can do it, two of them at the same time, I can do it. So you got to point out and be reasonable, even though you got to call a race card when it's there. You just got to do it subtly.
Well, that's good. That's good. Thank you for that. I have so many questions for you. Let me jog on over to ask you, if you would share with us your family foundation. Tell us a little bit about it and why you launched it.
Yeah, I had always had an idea that I wanted to do that. When as I said, while I was in business with Horizon Beverage Company, I was giving away $200,000 a year, different nonprofits around. But once I sold my business, I knew I was going to be able to do that at all when I did that. But I thought that it would be possible for me to do it if I sold the business for the right way. And that's probably what I should talk about, is how I sold my business, because that was probably more critical than anything else that I did. But it allowed me the fact to get, to have enough money to start my foundation, as well as take care of my family for generational wealth for my family for years and years and years. So I started a foundation to make sure I continued to give in Oakland, the city and the town that had been so good to me. I wanted to make sure I did it for a legacy for life, and I wanted to do it for Black and brown kids here, education being the main focus of my foundation. It's the Sestra, T-R-A, Teresa, Raquel, and Andrea, my wife and my two daughters. I put a capital T, a capital R, a capital A at the end to make sure everybody knows what it means to give back to your community.
You know, you said something that struck a chord, Seth, and I would love for you to share with us the importance of building generational wealth. I don't know if many of us understand why there is yet a disparity in regards to wealth, building and generational wealth, where that came from. And I'm not sure if all of us really know that, but I thank you for saying that. And I would, if you could touch on that just a little bit, and then I'll open this up to everyone because I so appreciate you today. But if you could talk about that, Seth, that'd be great.
Okay. Generational wealth is not a foreign subject to most white people. It is a foreign subject to us as Black people because mainly we never had the money to do it. When we did get the money, sometimes it was one generational wealth. What we did is made a lot of money, lived large, then it was all gone. Only lasted for one generation. A lot of people have always had an opportunity to continue their wealth for a long time to come. And if you manage, if you make enough and you manage it enough, you can create that generational wealth, which will always be producing. you can create generational wealth without having a lot. You don't have to have a lot. You just have to make sure you manage your lifestyle with the ability to make the money grow. Now, I sold my business 5 years ago or so. The generational wealth has kept generating. It's generating more than enough money for my kids and for me to live on. But I want to be in a position where that when I die, my estate doesn't have much in it. Most of the money will be into the trust for my kids. And I'm trying to teach them how to make sure that they are not owners of that money. They are trustees of the money for their generation, for their kids. And their kids will be trustees for their kids. It's just a trustee of the money to make sure that it continues to provide you with everything that you need. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to contribute to society in some kind of fashion. Therefore, I made sure that not only had the trust set up, but I had the foundation set up. So you can think about the terms of what you're going to do with the foundation and how you're going to give back to your community and what work are you going to do to make sure you're giving back to your community. So that's what I try to teach my kids and try to make sure that they understand. Meanwhile, I got to make sure my wife understands that too. Well, we can do whatever we want to do. Bless her heart, she decides. We're in the position right now we can do just about anything. But it's a nice position to be in. Never thought a little poor country boy from 12 kids in mid-Missouri would ever be doing this. And now this is where I am.
I got to tell you, this is so rich. Those of you who are on Cranmer, are you enjoying this? Can you just nod your head? You know what, Seth, I thought the other day that everybody needs a mentor, meaning that's someone more experienced, a sage or wise thought partner who's able to lift up and push that person forward. And without, such a person will continue to be surrounded by our, I'd like to say, amen echo chamber. And actually we'll be stuck in a place where we think we're growing. So when you talk about mentorship, I mean, I think this is so amazing. It's so rich. And I think we need people like you to just speak in our ear to answer questions that we have. What do you think about mentorship, Seth, and the benefit?
I really enjoy the mentorship aspect of everything. Once some of you may have known that I given about $1 million to East Bay College Fund and Oakland Promise. The reason why I did it was not only did they provide scholarship for the kids to go on to college, but they have a program which requires them to have mentors with the kids to take them all the way through college. It's not enough to give them the money to go to college. It's trying to make sure that they understand what they have to do in going through college. They call it East Bay College Fund persistence. And I love that term that they call it persistence, because it's a way to get your mentorship there involved with them to continue on and do it. Most of my donations that I give to organizations are just like that. They have a mentoring quality in it. It's not just giving them money for scholarships. Anybody can do that. But it has the mentoring aspect as well. And can I circle back for a little bit, Anita?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. One thing I always say, I want to make sure you have this recorded so you can tell any other business person when I try to keep business can become complicated. You got to do this and you got to do that and you got to balance this and that. But if you just keep it simple, and I tell my kids this all the time, you only have to be successful in life at whatever you're doing. You just have to show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, finish what you start, and say please and thank you. And if you do those 4 things, you'll be successful in life. You'll be successful in business, in life, in whatever you want to do. Just show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, finish what you start, and say please and thank you. That's all you have to do.
Well, let me repeat that. You say show up on time.
Yeah.
Do what you say you're gonna do. Finish what you started and say please and thank you. Did I get it all, Seth?
That's it. That's it. Those are my 4 rules for a successful life.
Well, listen, we got a few minutes left, and I want to pause here and just give a shout out to Kathy Adams. I so appreciate her. We don't even have enough time here to let her know how much I appreciate her and the partnership we have, we being Working Solutions. We are a CDFI situated in San Francisco, but as a business development officer, my region, one of my areas is Alameda County. And our desire as a lender is really to let Black and brown businesses know that we are out here and we want to be able to help them. But I really thank Kathy so much. Kathy Adams, got to hear from you before we go. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. It's in your hands, Kathy.
Well, thank you guys. Everybody know that Seth is amazing. He gives me a hard time, but I'm me because of this wonderful gentleman. And Anita, thank you. Amazing job interviewing this. You know, there's a lot going on today, but this right here was so meaningful. So I can't say enough to thank my chairman of the board, Ces Butner. Ces, we're just so indebted to you.
Thank you, Kathy and Anita, and thank you all of you all for coming to this.
And if we can just give Seth a hand clap here. I mean, totally. This was amazing. This was amazing.
Absolutely.
And I think we should do this again up the road. We'll have some other content, but with that, I just need you to just to end this. I want to defer to you.
All right. I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity, first of all, Kathy, to do this. And thank you for the Chamber of Commerce for what they do for all of our businesses out here. And all I wanted to do was to try to make sure I could offer any other of the businesses that are part of the Chamber an opportunity. You can show this to other businesses if you want to, Kathy, afterwards, to think in terms of not only their own success, but how they become a part of the community and how they help other people succeed as well as yourself. Nothing beats success like the success of others. My mother told me that a long time ago, and it's still true today. And so my success is really related into your success. And if you're successful, it makes me happy and makes my life go a lot better too. Thank you.
Wow, that was rich. We're going to be eating off of that for a long time. Everybody, have a great rest of the day. And I look forward to catching up with you at some time in the future. Good day, everybody.
Bye now.
Thank you very much. Thank you.